Hello YouTube, Phantaram here, bringing you a short DD Celestial Elementalist guide. This video will be about the 2 rotations that you'll need to learn to play DD Celestial Elementalist optimally, either offensively or defensive. Those are the 2 rotations. There's one offensive rotation and one defensive rotation, and how to switch between them and when to use them, when to use whichever one. Obviously there's, you can't just boil down this class to just 2 rotations, but I think once you learn these 2 rotations, you can, mix it up, apply where you need to, what needs to be done, etc., etc. So without further ado, let's get on with it. The first rotation I'll teach you is the offensive rotation, which within it has a specific might stacking rotation, which I have on this notepad here. You can read that. I'll put it in the annotation of the video, and I also have it written down on my stream at twitch.tv/Phantaram. So I'll just be doing the offensive rotation a few times, so you can just watch me, copy exactly what I do. So before I do the rotations though, I'll explain that you either start in air or fire. And you want to start in air when you don't know where the enemy team's at. Like, they could jump you, and you want to be in air so you can pop Shocking Aura. Basically, it's more defensive than fire. But say you're pushing far and you're gonna try to 1v1 somebody on their home node, and your team says, "Oh, there's 3 home," so you're gonna be 1v1ing at far. So you can just immediately switch to fire and do the rotation from there, because starting in fire will do more damage, which is what this rotation's all about. And if you're 1v1ing like a tanky person, like another DD Celestial Elementalist or a warrior, this is what you want to do. You want to do maximum damage. So that way, if you do get +1'd, your teammate can kill them as quickly as possible, or possibly you could even kill them, which is entirely possible if you do this rotation correctly. So without further ado, let's do this. There's the might stacking rotation, starts here. You can do Earthquake in the might stacking rotation if you want. Or you can save it. Depends which one you prioritize more at the time, either might stacking or CC, whatever. The aura is really important to get, the fire aura. It's just extremely good. It gives you more might, it burns your enemy, it gives you protection because I'm using the protection trait. I'll probably put a link to my build in the description too, just for those that aren't aware of what I'm using exactly. So yeah, see, you can see I can retain about 20 or so might. Sometimes jumps to 25, sometimes it goes down to like 19 or so. If you do it perfectly, that's how much might you'll retain, at least with Hullbreck runes, which is what I use in my build. In a real game, the rotation is not going to go perfectly, like it does in target golems, and that's okay. Just keep the rotation up. It's not like you're going to retain as much might as you do here, but it's still the most damage you can do. It's still the best rotation you can do to do damage. Sometimes, you'll be doing the rotation in a team fight. Okay, before I go into that, we'll talk about when do I use this rotation. Okay, well, use it anytime you're not taking enough pressure or damage to warrant the defensive rotation. Yeah, it's like self-explanatory, really. Like, this rotation, the offensive rotation, will oftentimes be enough healing to keep you at full life. And when you're keeping yourself at full life, you want to be doing the most damage you can. Sometimes in the middle of the rotation, you can call out to your teammates, "My water's almost up," and you can heal them. And that's amazing. Healing your teammates and doing the most damage you can at the same time is the most useful you can be when you're not getting focused. But when you are getting focused, you don't want to be doing this rotation, which brings us to the defensive rotation, which basically the principle of playing defensive, the defensive rotation is just using water as often as you can. And that involves going in, using all the healing you can, and then switching back out as fast as possible. And the reason you switch out as fast as possible is because you want it to come up again, so you can switch and get more healing again, and dodge roll again, get all the healing. But something that often occurs, and I'll explain this as soon as my 2 minutes come back up here. And that sounds easy enough to follow, but there is a problem that happens if you don't do the rotation correctly, where you can't accomplish that. Sometimes you get stuck in water because you did your rotation wrong. So I'll explain it here. So say you get jumped by a thief. he brings you to 14k HP or so. He does a 4k, 5k damage opening. So immediately you want to use water, because you're hurt. So you switch to water, maybe you use shocking aura, who knows. You use your healing, and then you want to switch out of it, so you switch to fire. And then you're doing damage, blah blah blah. And you switch to earth. Now, freeze right there. See your attunement cooldowns? I actually have it written down. We got 8 seconds in fire, 3 seconds in air, and 4 seconds in water. So, what we can see here is that air comes up next when you're in earth. I guarantee you, I see this all the time when I'm watching like a tournament on Twitch or something. There's amateur tournaments. I watch some streams. I see other elementalists do this mistake all the time, and it's a horrible mistake. I do it sometimes, and you want to avoid it. They'll switch to air, which is a huge mistake, because then after a second of being in air, you'll switch to water because you want to do healing, because you're under a lot of pressure. But then when you switch to water, you're stuck there for 4 seconds while you wait for fire, which you just reduced your healing by a lot. So what you want to do is you stay in earth, and even though air comes up, you got to resist switching to it, and you just wait for water. And then water comes up, you switch, you dodge roll, you do all the healing you can or you need, and then you switch back to air. And then you can stay in air if you want. You can switch to fire, do damage there. But that's the gist of it. You need to make sure that when you switch to water, you have something else to switch to. So you can't be like going through all your atonements all willy-nilly, or you're not going to get the maximum healing. You have to prioritize your water heal, which requires some nuance with your other rotations, or your other attunements as well. So, how do you switch between them? Well, switching from offense to defense is sort of self-explanatory. You're doing your offensive rotation, you become under pressure, then you just start prioritizing your water attunement. But switching from defense to offense is a little different. So your air and fire attunement are like your neutral attunement, right? So if you're not under pressure, like you're at full life, there's no reason to switch to water, or sometimes earth. Sometimes you don't want to switch to earth either. So you can just sit in air and fire until all your other attunements come back up, and then you just start doing your might stacking rotation. Say your water and earth's off cooldown, you switch to air, you switch to fire, and you're able to stay at full life because one of your teammates is getting focused or something. So then you just go straight into the might stacking rotation, That's how you switch to that one. Ultimately, it's going to come up to vast game experience about when to use each attunement, how to switch between them, etc. The most oftentimes you're not going to be using these rotations is when you're like running or chasing someone. When you're running, it's like a pseudo defensive rotation, and when you're chasing, it's like pseudo offensive rotation. But you can't do them perfectly because you're not in a single spot. You're chasing and you're running. So, yeah, I think that sums up what I wanted to make this video for. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Peace.